in time I tried to live up to be the man you had in mind. Was I not who you thought I'd be? Well, I'm sorry you wanted more and all you got was me. All you got was me. And now I just your homes fall, and in all your fights to prove you're right, you still will never find the man you had in mind.
I come from a small, immediate family. Mother, father, and I have an older brother. My parents divorced when I was 5. I didn't take it too very well when I was younger. I was bouncing back between parents, vacations, and so forth and so on. We didn't have a big religious upbringing. Well, no religion, pretty much. It was just, average.
I'm Tyler Spurgeon. I was born in Pasco, Washington. I was raised as a Mormon, so I went to college for about a year, and then I spent 2 years in Las Vegas as a Mormon missionary. So very, very religious. Religion was the lifestyle. It was everything. It's what your life was. So it was quite interesting. Because the whole being gay thing was so against everything I believed, I just did anything to keep my mind off it so I didn't think about it and couldn't admit to myself in any way that it was. So. School was everything. All the extracurricular activities, I threw myself in everything. Anything to get my mind off of that.
It's widely against my family's belief to be gay. They think it's a choice that you make, which I knew I was gay from a very young age. Well, I married my high school sweetheart. Simon came out of that, which was really great, but it just didn't work. It wasn't, and after we split up, I kind of, I dated girls, but I slowly kind of indulged the other side of me, and I came out slowly to friends and family, very, very slow. I was very nervous about it. I was still very scared and closeted, even though I was coming out to friends. I really wasn't comfortable with being gay until a year after I came out. I was very scared. I was scared that I'd lose all my friends, which did happen. Don't let go my ego.
I didn't actually end up coming out till I was almost 25. First of all, when I came out, it was like, okay, I'm gay. So that goes against everything I believed in. So it's like, well, how can I compensate the two? How can I make them work together? Eventually, I took the few little nuggets of what I felt were true from my beliefs and mixed them with the new values I've been learning and created a new self, I guess. It's kind of interesting because I kind of feel like a lot of the growth people go through as a teenager, I didn't go through until after I came out.
Do you get the idea? We've been tricked.
My mother, I haven't talked to in almost 13 years. I don't know if my brothers told her, and either way. But I told my brother. I told him, I think, on New Year's Day, and I called him, and I was like, how's your Christmas? And he's like, oh yeah, my Christmas was good, but my gay brother never showed up. I was like, oh, your gay brother, is he really gay? He's like, oh, I don't know. I go, well, I think he is. Yeah, your brother's definitely gay.
Okay, here's the rest of them. Oh, look, a little tiny pancake. Don't forget that Simon.
I used to have a full-time job as a computer programmer, doing websites and such, and when all that started to fall apart, I went from, pretty good income to practically nothing, and so I was having a lot of problems. This all happened about the same time I came out. Of course, my family being the religious sort, if you were righteous, you wouldn't have financial problems and stuff, And, of course, get out of the house as much as possible. I was always out, having fun at the clubs and everything, and I went to the Mr. Gay Portland pageant, which is where they choose the new one that was going to be the reigning Mr. Gay Portland for the year. And he was there and backup dancer and won the numbers. I was like, So we kind of flirted back and forth all night and everything, and nothing really happened there. He was just kind of blowing me off, and I wasn't having it.
A couple weeks later,
The next week,
yeah, I bump into him. I'm all like, blah blah blah. I said his name wrong, and he's like, no, try again. And I'm all like, and then he told me his name. It was cute.
So he was there, and that's where we ended up getting together, and we basically spent from the foam party the next almost 24 hours together, just talking and eating and getting to know each other, and it was just like, wow, this is really cool. So that's just kind of how it started. About a month later, we cut it off everyone else and been us ever since. So he gave me this ring. He was like, hey, this is like my promise that I will be breaking up with everyone else and it'll just be you. And
no, what did I say to you?
You expect me to remember something?
Oh my gosh.
You know my memory.
I told him, hey, I go, here's my ring. I'll be thinking of you because it'll be gone and it'll be on you, and there's something to remind you of me. And that's what I told you that night, right at the club, right over there at Brig. I remember exactly the spot it was too, because that was the time that I see that as the time we actually got together, even though we didn't spend that night together. But I gave him that ring. There you go. There's your swim shorts.
Hey.
What?
He found one of my favorite books at store with the train.
The one with the train? Which one is that? Do you remember?
It's with the fossil.
Is it this one?
Yeah.
The Polar Express?
Yeah.
Did I tell you we got more books coming in the mail?
Yep.
Oh, look what else I bought you yesterday. I gotta get a picture of you to put in there, though. Well, I didn't even meet his parents for the first time, but when I saw the houses and stuff, I'm like, wow, that's like 3 of my, It was huge. It was very big to me, coming from a very poor and living in small areas. And I spent the night there, and we had to sleep in different rooms, which, I fully respect, their beliefs and everything. Meeting his mom for the first time was a challenge because she looked right through me. We went out to dinner, and everybody just kind of acted like I wasn't there. His youngest brother, Matt, talked to me, and his girlfriend, which they recently married. They talked to me somewhat. His mom, I wasn't there. I literally, to her, I was not there. It was kind of nerve-wracking, I guess, and I felt awful.
Smells like duck poop.
Yep.
Well, my mom's just kind of like, oh no, what's going on? What did I do wrong? And she's just really uneasy with everything, It's just, we used to be really close. I mean, we'd talk all the time.
Tyler was a mama's
several
boy.
times a day. I mean, my mom and I are so much alike. She's like the female version of me, especially of who I used to be. I've been conflicted. It's like I want to push it on her as much as possible to make her deal with it, but at the same time, we're so much alike that I understand that won't work. So it's like I want to do one thing, but try to give her a space at the same time. And I know how she thinks because I used to think the same way, So it's like, and I keep trying to think, what would make me understand better? And the only thing I can think of is, the only reason I can understand is because it happened to me. It's like try to help her understand in a way that, I don't know.
I don't know. They got their own little island.
Maybe Simon will work.
Yeah. Simon, when you get old, you gotta get a good job.
Part of when I came out, the biggest thing that upset me, I guess, about coming out was the fact that I want to have my own child. And, I just kind of dealt with that and accepted it. And then when I met him and we started dating and everything, it was like, wow, he has a child. It was like something I never thought of. It's like, wow, now I'm a dad.
Stand out this way, Simon.
Is that what you're supposed to say? You're only supposed to say that to your dad.
No.
No, you.
Yeah.
Hey.
Well, he laughed at me at the video game yesterday.
Okay.
Throw it.
I tried.
Me and Tyler, our beliefs are a lot alike, I think. on how to raise a child.
It's just amazing. We have such different backgrounds. It's amazing how much alike we are and how many of our viewpoints are the same. Not exactly the same, but close enough that the compromise just comes naturally.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, there's obviously things you have to talk about and work out, but so much has just come so naturally.
If anything, he brought me back. The 3 months I went, well, longer than that, 6 months, I was drinking a lot, going out to the clubs a lot. Not seeing my son, and which I used to have on a regular basis. I would pick him up after work and drop him off at night sometimes, or keep him overnight and drop him off in the morning. And I'd see him quite often, and then I went to pretty much not see him at all. And now I see him on a regular basis.
Cool. Very cool.
Get it, Simon! Run, 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 run! Uh-oh.
Dad, let's take a break.
Oh. Look. All these rose petals. Where'd they come from?
I'm taking a break.
You always take a break.
Smell your dandelion.
If you find another one, I'll tell you a story. It just clicked.
It did. We just clicked. I think.
Everything just, I don't know, it's happened fast, but every step just gets better.
We do really well. We do. We don't fight that often. We have our occasional, and it's usually nothing big. Just me being stupid half the time, worrying about crap. I'll admit it. And you being thoughtless. I need flowers sometimes.
Okay, guys. It's time to eat. Ready?
We're all ready.
We're ready. Let's go.
It's interesting living with an older couple that have been together for 21 years and seeing a gay couple that it's worked for. It's really cool to see that dynamic.
It's not so much lessons. I guess it's somebody to talk to. Because they've been through the same kind of stuff through their relationship, and they understand. It's more of a shoulder to lean on. We do learn from them. Don't get me wrong.
It's like asking what you learned from your parents,
Yeah, exactly.
It's really hard to say, but you learn life.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I just got to be thankful that I do have gay role models, gay couples that are role models like Jim and Joey. They have really been a role model in my life, I think, and they made such an improvement. Just seeing them in day-to-day life, living with them.
Growing up, I was pretty kind of intellectual, I was always really good at the math and the sciences. I played the piano. I did all these things, that I threw myself at, so I didn't have to think about me. It's like the last 3 years, I've kind of put that on hold. I've always been really big in computers. I mean, since I was 10 years old, I've spent as much time on computers as I have sleeping. It's like.
That's true. He spends more with that thing than he does me. So neglected. I'm just kidding. I was having a rough time for a while, and I moved in here with them, and it took me a while to adjust. They went through it with me, I'm sure, being very disruptive, I guess, but they worked through it, and they worked with me. They showed me how they interacted with each other, and they showed me what a loving family, I guess, and really is, and I'm just glad to be part of this family. I really am.
Oh, come here.
I'm about to cry. But it's true, and I don't think I tell you guys enough, but
we know you love us.
The only thing about me, I always feel like I'm stuck in a rut. I got the low-end job all the time, just so I can make it. I had a family when I was young at 20. Simon was born. I was supporting myself at 17, having my own apartment, working every day. It was kind of hard, and so I've never had the chance to go to school. I was lucky to finish high school, to tell you the truth, really.
So that's one of my biggest dreams, is to be able to get us to the point where he can go to school and figure out what he wants to do rather than be forced to do what he has to do just because that's what he's been doing. So I guess to me that I would love to be able to give him the opportunity to do that.
Close your eyes. This is a dream. The words that you have aren't as bad.
I guess what everybody else
As
dreams.
they
You know, the
say.
White House and the picket fence and the dog in the
For once
backyard
in
playing
your
with Simon,
life,
you know. That's what I
don't
think of anyway.
apologize for feelings you show. I met with no compromise. You feel like a leaf from a late autumn tree, floating back and forth so carelessly. And I am the ground waiting for gravity to pull you to me, but too far with no urgency.
Someday I'll be rich and be paying people to do this.
There you go.
You need something to drink?
No, I'm fine.
At night it was a little loud, but living here now is so much quieter. I even wake up, it's so quiet around here. What do you do? I'm stuck behind the table.
We're gonna start having him throughout the week, and she's gonna have him on the weekends. She's having a problem getting him to school and getting him to bed and getting him to do his homework, and he listens to us and doesn't hurt her, basically. So,
Thanks.
yes, he has his own bedroom up there. He's excited about it. Bought him a new bunk bed with like a little desk underneath.
Oh yeah, he loves his bunk bed. He loves being up there.
Downstairs.
He took all of his stuffed animals from up here and put them up there. He had his little monkeys hanging off the side of the bed, poor thing.
Nice.
And he's like, oh, I want this picture. He has this picture, his favorite picture of me and him together.
And our room's not quite as you can see.
Our room is trashed. And I put up, you know how Simon's always like the world, talking about just Portland? So I put up the poster of the whole entire world so he knows the difference between, this is Portland, it's a small little point on this map. And the world is much bigger than that. He understands.
Open the window to let in the rain. With every heartache, there's something to gain. Let love teach a lesson you shattered and learned. Can't start a fire with nothing to burn.
Between work and it's just been
I feel like a leaf from a late autumn tree,
Did you see 2 months ago it would have been double the pill
floating back and forth
because there's a combo pill involved. It has these 2 things in it. Otherwise I would have had it taken 2 and then 2. You see what I mean? So it would have been a total of like 8 pills a day. 5 pills. So plus the Bactrim and all the vitamins, I'll be taking like 15 pills a day.
I think that Lee and I have something exceptional. That we have the the bind that ties us together. You know, we're inextricably bound together for something that is still almost frightening sometimes to us, and we don't always have a full grasp on it because it's just something that exists in and of itself. and we're just a part of it, you know. So I think it's what everybody really strives for, you know. I think being a couple, having a partnership, being in love, loving another person, being dedicated, being loyal, and I think that it's been nothing but good for both of us, and we've changed each other's lives, and I think it's amazing, and I think that people should see it. Love you.
Love you too.
My name's Frank Russell, 25 to be 26 the end of this year. I work as a nurse's aide. I also pass medication to CMA, CNA. I've lived in Oregon for about 3 years. I'm from Michigan. Yeah.
My name is Lee Haywood. I'm 33, and I have lived in Oregon, in Portland now for about 8 months. Moved from for about a year. Over a year. Moved from San Francisco, where I lived there for 3 years, and Frank came and got me, and we live here now.
You're welcome.
Hi, I have an appointment with Dr. Reader at 11:20. Lee Haywood.
All right, you're all checked in. You can go ahead and go back.
Go around. Thank you.
The only thing I think that's really strong for me that I could express that keeps us together is that binding love that we have for each other, that we both feel. I mean, yeah, I don't think it's any sort of system or checklist that we can write off for someone. You know what I mean? It's just this relationship is built on nothing but instinct.
We ready?
Yeah. Okay, let's go.
No. You meet Dr. Reader.
Okay, well, we do
Okay.
first.
I was working in 1997. I was working at a bar, a really hip, great club in New Orleans, and not MTV hip, but like freak underbelly subculture hip, called the Audubon. The first time I saw Frank, he came down to the bar. He was 18, so very 18, and I so very knew it, but this is New Orleans, and there was nobody else in the bar. He sat down, he ordered a Jack on the Rocks, and I came to him and I said, "My God, you've got the longest eyelashes I've ever seen in my entire life." And then I poured him a Jack on the Rocks. He drank it in complete silence and left and stiffed me.
I did. Oh, he looked great. He had on like platforms. He was really tall, and he had on a wife beater with like these yellow skin tight pants with lavender hair that was just it was platinum blonde, but it had like a lavender tint to it. He looked great.
And we moved in together 3 weeks later.
Do you understand what that chart means?
No.
Not really. Not the whole resistance thing.
Two of these.
Mm-hmm.
Two of these.
Mm-hmm.
And one combo pill.
Yeah. Otherwise, it would have been two of these, two of these,
So you're taking
two of the Vareed,
You're taking Lexiva,
Mhm.
Norvir,
Mhm.
and Troubadour.
or Epsicom.
After the second time we made love, I looked into his eyes and I said, "There's not going to be anyone else, is there?" And he said no. And that was that.
I remember calling home and bragging that I had, to my sister that I had a boyfriend, and telling my mom, and they were all, they were very supportive, but they didn't know quite what to think until they met Lee. And we lived with my mother in Michigan for about a year with my siblings, and it was fine. They're lovely.
His family, the foundation of these people, it's humor. That's how they get on. That's how they get by in life. And I'm a funny guy, I think. And the chemistry, and I just feel right with his family. It all worked out.
It's so weird because I've been feeling fine. I'm gonna have to ask her some stupid questions. Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good. This is my partner, Frank.
It's a tough place to be an individual, and it's a really tough place for a couple. And it was where we met. It was our meeting place. So it was how we defined each other and ourselves. You know, the city of New Orleans was Lee to me for such a long time. And then, yeah, we were together for how long? About 3 years?
2.5.
2.5, 3 years.
Left New Orleans, got smart, left New Orleans together. Both complete drunks. And, you know,
we moved to my mother's house in Michigan.
Moved to a little attic room to his mother's house in Michigan, which was in Jackson, about 20 minutes away from Ann Arbor. And lived there for about 8 months together. And then, because of certain situations, we broke it off.
We parted ways.
Parted ways. Frank had to do things on his own, and I had to just be right in my head. And I moved to San Francisco, and Frank...
I moved back to New Orleans alone.
Moved back to New Orleans.
Yeah.
I lost the love of my life, and I slowly and systematically tried to destroy myself through drugs, and that's when I was diagnosed with HIV. I didn't care. I was missing in action for about 8 months, and Frank and I had always kept in contact, always. Spoke to each other on the telephone, and for 8 months I sort of did a little disappearing act when I contracted HIV. And when I called the day I was diagnosed, and I called and I told Frank that I contracted HIV, he just, I don't know, his alarms went bling, bling, and he was there to see me 3 days later, or a week later. And 2 months after that, Frank came to San Francisco with a U-Haul and rounded me and my things up and dragged me here.
Now, your chest x-ray was normal.
Normal, thank God.
And so you don't need to do anything with that.
You know, a little bit cheesy, but my knight came and saved me. Saved my life and drove me out of there in a U-Haul horse. But I have to stop smoking.
Well, what do you think about that? How are you doing with that?
I'm having such issues with that, really. He quit smoking.
Oh, good.
And I'm having such issues with it because it's like it's my last vice I'm clinging to. You know, it's really completely psychological for me.
Okay. Now, have you quit successfully in the past?
Yes, once before for a year, but that was when I was 19.
Okay.
That's it?
That's it. Yeah.
I'll see you in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
You
Do
ready?
you have any other questions?
Nope.
Okay. So
New Orleans took a big toll on us for drinking and partying and drugging, and I mean, Frank just saved me from a recreational
and decadence.
nightmare.
So being here for fun for us,
Our fun is time in this house.
We create a nice environment around ourselves.
And being productive and proactive and improving and being healthy. That's what I do for fun.
We listen to really good music. Lee likes to cook. He cooks very well. So we eat. You know, it's just about creating that environment that is, you know, we try to be inspiring.
We're creating a foundation for us and our relationship that never existed.
Home to this house. I love coming home to this house so much that it sometimes still surprises me. You know, I've never had a place where I've been excited to come home all the time just because I enjoy being here. You know, we have fires. I read a lot.
All right, shall we go to the estate sale?
Got a lot of money, don't got a lot of time to waste. And returning home, I realize
it's really hideous.
Is it?
Yeah. You look totally goofy.
Do I?
Yeah.
Okay, now this looks funny. Look, it looks like a back
It's like a fur robe, exactly.
fur robe.
Well, it looks that way anyway, except a robe that's
Got a lot to follow dreams.
All right.
When dreams won't follow you. Mine mean nothing to you, but it's everything to me.
God, your desk chair.
Mine mean nothing to you, but it's all I can see. Mama, can you hear me? Cheryl, can you hear me too?
Do you like it? I think that our love is an amazingly powerful thing, and I'm alive today because of it. And it's something I feel that I'm proud to scream on top of mountains, you know. And I met Frank when I was 27, and Frank was 18, and it took me until my late 20s to know what unconditional love was, what that meant, and it became real to me because of this man.
Mine mean nothing to you, but it's all I can see.
I was born and raised in Porterville, California, in the San Joaquin Valley, and went to school in Bakersfield at California State University, Bakersfield. Got my degree in nursing and my first job there, and that's where I ended up meeting Bill, was in Bakersfield. And I'm 33, and we came to Portland 3 years ago.
Bill is the oldest in the family, the first grandchild, and kind of was idolized by all of his grandparents. Everybody had great expectations for him. He did well in school. Married a very nice girl, had 2 lovely children, and everybody was a little bit disappointed, upset, plainly damn mad when we found out that he was a homosexual. I never had anything to do with or heard very much about them. And so it was really a shock, I might say.
I was married for 10 years. I have 2 wonderful children and 3 grandchildren, all boys. And I just celebrated my 60th birthday in October. My father passed away, some years ago, so it's always just been my mom. And I just thought, I think I just called her and told her that I was dating this nice person and never said how old he was or nothing, you know, and just kind of ignored it until she came one year at Thanksgiving, and she says, turns and looks at me, and I said, yeah, I know, don't even go there. So it was not a topic, because I knew what she was going to say, your son's older than he is, But oh well.
The very beginning, Bill's age really bothered us. Bill's older than I am. Yeah.
It didn't bother me nearly as much. It bothered Dave more than it did me. David has always been more mature. Because he always was with, he didn't have a lot of friends.
He was an adult when he was 12 years old.
He was, he really was. He wasn't just like an adult. And I always told Dave, I said, he's going to marry somebody a lot older than him. Yeah. I know that he's going to be with someone.
It was easy for me to accept after I was around Bill for a little bit,
And meeting Bill, it probably bothered Bill more than it did me, I just ask him a million questions because that's how I am. I want to know everything about him. If he's going to be with David, I want to know that he's going to be good to David and that I approve of it.
You do the same thing with any of your children, not because...
Yeah, it doesn't,
Not because they're gay, but
just because we want to know all about him.
Very concerned with your child,
I had been single for about 5 or 6 years and just going about my business, and one night I just was bored, I guess, and went to the local gay bar in Bakersfield just to have a drink and get out of the house, so to speak, and ran into a gentleman that used to cut my hair, and he was with David, and I thought, David's way too cute to be with this guy. So I just went up and introduced myself, and I said, hi, I'm Bill, and don't forget it, because Stephen kept standing between us so that we couldn't talk. And I thought, well, how rude, And so I just said, well, my name is Bill, and don't forget it. And about an hour later, he comes up to the bar, and we had a drink together, and that's about it. And we kind of never went our separate ways. I just kept saying, isn't he going to go away, or isn't he going to go home? Doesn't he have things to do? But it just kind of evolved that way. But I knew the minute that I met him that it was right, in the most unusual circumstances, you know.
It just seems like David's been there for a long, long time, and I like David really well. I kind of feel if it hadn't have been for David that Bill would be dead, because when he had his open heart surgery, David started questioning the doctors. Have you done this or have you done that? And why this and why that? And we made the doctors start thinking and looking better. Then they found out that it was his heart. And then for a while he was perfectly okay, got along pretty well. Then when he had to have his open heart surgery, once again, David was there for him.
My mom had this conversation with my brother, and he was very concerned for me.
Oh, yeah.
Because Bill was so much older. And he said, well, something along the lines of, he was worried about me because if something were to happen to Bill because of his age, that I would be very saddened by that. And so he was concerned for me.
So dump him.
In that sense, but it's funny because Bill, you know, he's 5 years older than my dad.
Uh-huh.
My dad will be 56 in August. And so, but it's funny, you know, when you look at Bill and you look at my parents, Bill looks younger. And he's more active, physically active and everything. So I never think of him as being older.
And we have two people that had some milestones birthday. One who just turned 30, Mr. Jamie. So happy birthday, Jamie. Yay. And then my mother who turned 80. So happy birthday to Grandma Rini. So happy birthday to everybody.
I always used to think that to be a gay person, you were kind of a slimy person who probably lived on the streets, didn't have a home or any morals, or, well, you know, just kind of a rough kind of person.
Come here, let's put your face in it.
All of the friends that Bill has and all of the other partners or friends that he's had, they've all held good jobs. They all pay their taxes. If they have children, they seem to be very interested in their lives. They're good to their parents. And I'm...
Yeah. And be nice again.
So...
No, why should
I can't say that I... Can I say that? I don't know that I can say I'm very proud of him. But I feel like he is an honorable man, and he's good to his kids. He's very good to his grandkids, and he's good to me.
I always felt that David was gay from the time he was little. You know, David never played rough games or boy-type games. You know, I'm very nervous. So. But yeah, he never played boy games. He always, you know.
He was with me a lot. You know.
And
he played football one year.
He played football, but he wasn't comfortable.
He played football.
You know,
I
so.
told him, I gave birth to you, and you're the only one that had broad shoulders, and it hurt a lot. And I really want you to play football this year. This was in junior high. So he played that year for his mom.
I was still playing sports when the kids were growing up. So, you know, it was different for me to not have boys. Of course, my youngest son did, you know. And in the beginning, it kind of bothered me, but, you know, I seen what a wonderful child he was. So, makes me cry to even think about it.
In my family, marriage is very important. My parents have been married for over 30 years, and our family relationships, it's interesting because I look at my brother and my sister. They both met, you know, the loves of their life when they were in high school, and they've been together that whole time and are both now married. and so our family is very committed to individuals in that relationship. And so for me, that, you know, we had that discussion, well, what if they started allowing gay couples to get married? You know, would we get married? And
No.
And Bill always was,
No.
you know, I don't want to get married again. That's not for gay couples. That's, you know, heterosexual couples. That's not. It's different. And so we had a lot of discussion about that. And when all of these things started happening, you know, we've had several changes over the past few years, with Bill having surgery in September and moving here and the experiences that we've had here. And we started talking about it again and said, you know, this is the right thing. And this is the next step that we want to take in our relationship. And so, you know, the emotion that was around that is incredible. And how we feel towards each other
has changed drastically.
Very, you know, it's very different. And
I was on the cell phone the day that they got married, and it was just, I couldn't be there. You know, they got their license and they got married right away. And so they had the cell phone right there so I could hear the ceremony. And I just cried. I mean, I just wanted to be there with them.
I think their happiness is as important as anybody else's. You know.
I just could not make myself come. Bill and I talked for a long time on the phone about it. You know, sometimes I think to myself, am I just talking and living a lie? Because I couldn't make myself come to his wedding, per se. It went against my grain entirely. But then my daughter said to me, aren't you going to even send him a wedding gift, Mom? And I thought, oh my gosh. Well, no, I'm not going to. Well, she said, I think you should. And I thought, coming from my daughter, I didn't believe she would ever. So she said, guess what? We'll go together and get him a gift certificate. So that's what we did, sent him a gift certificate after the wedding was maybe 2 or 3 weeks old, you know. And then I've often thought, but still, he's my son, you know? So.
No, on the beach.
Yow. Well, maybe we should get naked on the beach.
I don't think so.
Thinking about my children, Bill and Lynn, they have never gotten along at all. There's always been she's the youngest and he's the oldest, and there's always been a constant battle with them. And I always prayed that the Lord would make them at least be speakable to each other. They would be nice. They didn't have to be friendly or anything, but at least treat each other halfway decent. And when he was ill, I thought, holy cow, he can't die and there be that animosity between those two kids. And so I was really praying hard one morning for him and Lynn both to be able to speak to each other. And it was just like the Lord said to me, and what about that log in your own eye? And I thought, what do you mean? And I started thinking, and then it just came to me. I hated that kid. I absolutely hated him for what he'd done to us. Then I had to go back to my Lord and talk to him some more about being able to forgive my son.
She tells you it's been raining on her for days and it won't stop. She don't think I hear, but I know you feel every drop.
I'm the youngest of 2 children. I have an older brother, about 3.5 years. my parents, both from the Midwest. I grew up in the town that my mother was born in, and she was a farm girl, and she met my dad in St. Louis, who was born in St. Louis. And when they got married, she convinced him to move out to the small town. And they're great. They're incredibly supportive.
This rock is not good.
Okay, well it can be good if we,
It's too narrow. People slide one way or the other. Well, I choose one of those.
roll it over.
This is better. Sort of.
If it's buried, it'll be fine.
Okay.
It'll be a bit challenging, but it's not a good rock, you're right, but we don't have a lot of options unless we have from somewhere else.
It was Todd's birthday, and
we came up.
Well, we were out, and he came out to us, and the night before we had gone to dinner at Joel and Richard's, and Bill was there, but he was kind of not there, you know.
He stayed away from us, I guess.
Yeah, and the next morning we were eating breakfast, and we were going to go up to Multnomah Falls, and Leo said, "By the way, Todd, are you dating anyone?" And Todd said, I want to talk to you about that. And I just looked at him and I said, "It's Bill, isn't it?" And he said, "Yes." And his dad said, What? He was oblivious.
I guess I missed the signs looking back. The other thing that, in retrospect, there was a distance growing. Todd seemed distant in ways. And when he came out, the pieces of the puzzle kind of fit together better. And in our meetings and PFLAG and that, we've learned that Todd wanted to share his life with us. And until he came out, it wasn't really done. He wanted to be part of it, and we wanted to be part of his life. And his coming out made it possible, very much so.
Todd had a nurse that called us, or we called her, and her son had just come out to her, and she said, "I can't stop crying. I don't know why." And I said, "It just goes with the territory." That's all that all the parents say, especially the mothers.
It's that adjustment. It was a shock. It was different. We didn't know how to and there's a grieving on the parents' part of, like, your kids had to build up to a point where they could come out, and the parents go through the same type of thing.
It is supposed to dry up a little bit today, so
I noticed.
that will be welcome. We got at least a half an inch of rain last night. Really?
My family,
It was pouring.
I think a relatively traditional family for the most part. I had 3 siblings. I lost one brother about 6 years ago. But I'm the oldest of 4, and my second brother and I grew up pretty close. Unfortunately, the family started falling apart when we got into high school. I think Dad went through the midlife crisis. So, and then my parents finally divorced right just as I was finishing high school. My mom moved down to Sacramento, and my dad stayed in Springfield with his business. And my little brother sort of bounced back and forth between the two, and that was very difficult on him. And he got into big trouble, got into drugs, and was actually in prison for a few years, and then passed away about 6 years ago.
Well, I've known Bill all his life. I held him when he was born, so because I am his aunt, and he's my firstborn nephew. And my sister and I are 18 months apart, or 2 years apart, so he's been a real special little guy in my life for a long time. I knew he was gay because he lived with my folks, and he had, started into the gay lifestyle then, somewhat not. So by the time I came to Portland, he was already living with Todd. So we went out Bill and I went out to eat. Bill came and picked me up from the hotel I was staying at. And we went out to eat and we talked about it. And I just asked him, I asked him about when he decided he was gay and how that happened, and he told me.
Well, when we got married, we were.
It was
yeah. We did it really quickly, so we were going to have some friends and family try to in August.
What do they call it after you get married? See, we're so good about this.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just going to have a party so we can invite more friends. We had a lot of friends drop whatever they were doing and run and come to our wedding, and that was really nice. But, there are other people. We kind of like to just have a big party. We never actually have had a housewarming either, so we're just kind of...
I was even hoping to recreate some of our vows, since, to have some little ceremony on it.
You're really married, or I don't know. It's like, it's so weird. But, we got married, and we just lost it when you ask friends if they want to watch your wedding video. I mean, that's just not me.
I was sorry for both of them, because I'm a Christian. I'm married. I have 4 kids. I love them both, but, I don't... I wish that their lives had been different, and I don't know that I believe that they were born this way, but they have made this decision, and they're decent, beautiful people, and of course, when you love somebody, you accept them the way they are. I mean, you just love them the way they are, and that I love my nephew. When he told me he got married, I said, "Well, Bill, I love you." That's end of story. I love you.
We still have to figure out what to do with this bamboo.
Another day.
It is another day.
All right, I'll see you guys. Good luck. Thank you very much. Disgusting.
As a father, I feel very good Todd's in a loving relationship. I feel very good Todd's got a partner to share with. As he gets older, he's got a life that they've built together, and I think that's wonderful. I've talked to a woman who lost her partner. They were both teachers, and she lost her partner after 30 or 40 years, and she was lost.
One thing, and Todd alluded to it already, is that we had some very close friends that helped us, not only helped us get together. I mean, one friend offered me his apartment as a place to live so that I could get out of another situation in order to assist Todd and I staying together, and that was very helpful. Another friend was key in introducing us, and then making sure that we kept some sort of line of communication open. I don't know why people were so motivated to keep us together. But more importantly, we had some very good role models who had long-term relationships. So we actually had role models that we could look to and sort of hope to, sort of achieve the same sort of level of relationship. And that was, very useful. I mean, that was a motivator for me. I mean, if they can do it, I thought, then, I want to be able to do that as well.
At one of the meetings we'd spoken to, there was this young lesbian, and she said something about, we said, give your parents time to come around. And she came up to me afterwards, and she said, like, how much time? And I said, well, how long has your family known? And she said, 5 years. And I was kind of speechless. And then her partner said, out of her hearing, she said she calls up and wants to talk to her mother, and she says, this is Lisa, and her mother says, I don't know Lisa. My daughter's dead.
It's so easy to walk away from something when you're angry and upset, and gay or straight. And a lot of times it's luck, a lot of times it's other things that keep you together, your family or your friends, but ultimately it's got to be two people working at it who want to do it. And I think Bill's right. We were kind of at the same place, the same times in our life, sort of personally and professionally, and after a certain point, well, how are you going to split this? Isn't going to work.
There was our 7th year. There were a lot of weird things going on in our 7th year. I mean, there was, everybody always sort of talks about the 7-year itch or whatever, and there was probably some of that. I mean, that's definitely, I think, at a point where you know the person that you've been with for 7 years, and all the good and bad sort of surface.
That was supposed to stop raining.
But that's where it's important, I think, for any relationship to have some sort of bond that keeps you together, beyond just, the commitment between the two of you. We had a beautiful house and a beautiful garden. We had all these pets. And it would have been so difficult to break all that up.
Well, and I also think there are certain events in your life sometimes that happen to you where all the petty shit goes away and you're left with the bare rock. And David, his brother, dying after just having moved out of our house with us. He'd gone through a divorce. Going through a family tragedy like that and realizing that the bedrock is still really stable and that you want to be there, I think made us stronger too. It kind of just said, well, we still have our problems, but this is a real life event that sucks, but we're here for each other. We're here for the extended family. We were probably the stable glue for the entire family of Bill's family.
And my mom comes in Friday, Todd's mom and dad come in tomorrow night, my dad comes in on Saturday, my brother and his 2 kids come in, so it's a big happy family.
I don't know what to do now. 3/4 of the way down and it's only noon.
Communication is definitely the key.
And it is really difficult to learn how to effectively communicate to your partner.
Close around.
And we're doing Corvallis, I guess.
No, I think you're Alan too.
This is all Eugene.
We're all Eugene except for Tracy here.
It's been a monogamous relationship as well, and I think that's also been a critical piece. Certainly there were times when I thought, well, let's experiment, let's play around a little bit. But in retrospect, I could see how that would just confuse matters so much. And
intimacy is so hard to develop in a relationship for anyone, gay or straight. And at least for me, that distraction from intimacy, it's hard enough.
Right.
But you add that into it, and it just wouldn't work for me.
Right. See you tomorrow.
Okay, good night.
Bye.
Okay.
Well, here's where the work really gets done.
I don't look at it as marriage because I am very much opposed. In fact, very much support not changing the definition of marriage between one man and one woman. And I hope that never changes. I hope the law of our land never changes where marriage is between a man and a woman, because as a school teacher and an educator, especially a health educator and social studies teacher, I feel that the confusion that would be brought into society through a legal system that says one man, that marriage is between any two people, or, it could be changed to more than two people, never know where it's going to go, that I don't support that. I support my nephew and love my nephew, and this is what they've chosen to do. And so I'm not here to say I support gay marriage.
Oh, Pear's coming.
No, wait, really?
Yeah.
And
Who else called?
Linda?
No, not usually yet. I'm overruling it on that.
You like it?
Yeah. Unless you can come with something better, but I don't have time to
Isn't there other
keep buying and sampling.
other choices?
Well, of course there's other choices.
I don't like it.
Well, you'll be drinking beer.
You're right about that. I'll give it another try.
So I need help figuring out how much to buy. Right. I figure there's like 7 glasses of wine per bottle.
Right.
Kathleen Winery, RSVP,
Good, I hope she's
somebody, Erickson?
Susan Erickson?
Yes.
Oh, good.
She and her 2.5-year-old.
Good.
And then a bunch of people from the RV group. Barely.
She was the chair of the association. I don't know.
You better figure out how to do it if you want your share.
I do. Oh, it's not plugged in.
I told you I'm not tired.
Well, I was kind of hoping we could go through the invitation list. So that means we can get 72 pours per case. And those are small pours, this is like this size. Can't we get a different red?
What?
Oh, how about a cheap Pinot?
Cheap
Pinot.
Right, it's not a bad red.
It's not a good red. For one thing, if it's left over, that means you and I have to drink it.
For you.
Get a cheap Pinot.
It's a good one.
What's
wrong with it?
I just don't like it.
I'll drink it. I like it.
Fine. So I guess you've already made a decision on the wine.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Smells good.
So, do you really want to get rid of those, Alex? Do you really want to get rid of those steps that Matt built? Am I really supposed to take those to recycling?
Those boxes?
No.
And what would you use them for?
I don't really want to. Well, I may have to anyway, so.
Welcome. I haven't seen you
Thank you.
forever.
I know.
Let's go in.
In trouble
You're all
finding a place?
shaved up too. You had
Yeah.
a beard the last time I
Oh,
saw
really?
you.
Oh, God. Yeah, I rarely do that anymore.
Yeah, well, good.
Oh, come here.
The fact that some people will never accept this type of relationship, and I would say that has to be a problem in everyday living.
Yeah, and you know what? And this is sort of on the subject, but not.
Yeah.
My husband's very conservative, and when you can talk about gay issues and this and that, but when you get to know what gets people like him, and I hope I'm not speaking for you here, but
oh no, dear.
but really conservative type people past that is, you meet Bill and Todd, and then it's like so what what does it mean that they're gay? What does that matter, right? And we look at them as our friends and as people we love and care about, and that goes away, and it's secondary to who they are and what their life's about.
So I don't remember them not being together. So it's kind of, I've just grown up with them together. I don't see them any different than anybody else.
I don't think that this is a Republican or a Democratic issue, or that Republicans, as part of their platform, have formulated any type of idea on this type of relationship. I really don't.
Patty's disagreeing. It's okay. It's okay.
Some kid in my class had it was a bumper sticker, but he had it on his binder, and it had a man plus a woman equals marriage, and then basically saying that same-sex couples shouldn't be married, and we got in a bit of a fight about that.
They're friends, and this is what they have done, and they are friends, and it really doesn't matter. So it's more the people aspect of it, and I think it's getting down to individuals more than anything else. But I don't have a problem with it at all. And just because I'm a Republican too, it doesn't mean that I agree with every single issue or every single Republican who is out there.
It's that much more wonderful. So. And also thank you to my wonderful husband.
The more I go on, the less you grow. Funny how that frown of yours never seems to move at all. Thank you for taking the time to plan out my life for me. Now it's time that I plan mine. Time that I plan mine. And I want you.
I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. I was born in 1930, and I grew up in a middle-class family, comfortable home in the suburbs, an alcoholic family. Parents that adored one another when they were sober and tried to kill one another when they weren't sober. When I was 12, I became a Roman Catholic. I made a decision that's what I wanted to do. I have no idea where that came from. And not quite 14, I went to a monastery. I chose to go and enter a monastery. A very severe and strict order called Trappists in Kentucky. But I ended up in Chicago between one monastery and another, and had my first sexual experience. And lifted myself up out of that after a few days of dancing and swimming happily in the world of flesh and enjoying it for the first time. And told my abbot what had happened, and he proved to me the wisdom that one should never tell one's abbot things unless he asks about them. At any rate, I was told not to come back home. It was time for me to take permanent vows. I had been living on temporary vows for 3 years at a time, which is a usual thing. And a couple of months later, I met him, and we've been together ever since. 51 years ago next Sunday. You realize it's been about 4 years since you had that bypass?
Yeah.
So how many times have we done this in the last 4 years? I wonder.
365 times 4.
Except for the few times when we go occasionally to Starbucks for just coffee and nothing else. It's funny having Burgerville be a morning home away from home.
Well, you could find little nicer places.
No, I like it. I like to be able to sit and look at the news and have coffee and be sufficiently depressed by the state of the world.
Well, I had been out swimming in Lake Michigan with a friend of mine, and we went to a little, actually it was a little gay restaurant. The owner didn't want it to be a gay restaurant, but it was gay anyway, and it was right near the beach. And we were sitting at a table and across from each other, having lunch and a nice conversation. And all of a sudden somebody walked up next to me and stood by my shoulder and started talking to my partner. And I didn't pay too much attention, except that there was something weird going on in my body. Just a strange sensation.
Okay, so
You're not clear.
I am or not?
No.
No. All right.
One. Over one.
Over one.
Yep.
I encountered this friend of mine, whose name was Nathan, sitting with someone whom I didn't even look at. I could just tell that there were arms there, and I didn't look at his chest or head. I only looked at Nathan, and Nathan said, "Please come to a party." And a small miracle occurred. I was depressed enough and assertive enough to say, no, I'm going to a movie with Prince tonight. So I went and sat down. There's the mountain.
I just noticed. I could see my friend was disappointed. And within a matter of seconds, this person appeared again at my shoulder.
And I stood facing Nathan and said, I've decided to come to your party tonight. And I said, since I'm going to come, why don't you introduce me to your friend?
At which point I looked up, and I died. I died the death that died to the life that I'd led before. I was no longer that person. I was another person. And that was when I decided, this is where my life changes. This is the person I want to have a relationship with, right on this spot. And I made the determination that I was going to do it, no matter what it took.
And I saw his face for the first time. I hadn't seen his face.
It was the beginning of a relationship at that very moment. It didn't take weeks or months or even going to bed.
I wasn't looking across the room at someone who made all one's blood pump and so on. It was just
bang.
Bang. I'm going to park over here.
Okay.
Because they just put pansies out in my suite. You get to step out into a small field of blue pansies. Yes. You want to go catch this camera?
The picture isn't up there.
Oh, okay. Good morning. Morning, Sunny. Good morning, Wendell.
There's no picture. It's a blue screen.
Good morning, Shelley.
Hi, Louisa.
Okay, good. Good morning.
I went home and changed clothes and spent a little bit of time at home that evening, or that afternoon rather. And when evening came, I went to the party. And when I got there, I looked all over, and Eric was nowhere in sight. And all of a sudden, I saw him in the kitchen with a bottle of pop in his hand, and he was being barricaded by a very tall, very handsome, strong man who had an arm leaning on the refrigerator, so that he was blocked from getting out of the kitchen. Eric was blocked. And I thought, oh my, he's gotten somebody else now. And I looked, and at that moment, he said, "Excuse me, there's my date." And he slipped under the arm and came out to meet me. Found out later that the gentleman was a very wealthy lawyer from New York who had immediately asked him to move to New York to be his boy.
A world that I didn't even know existed. But he came in, and I saw him, and whatever this connection is that we have asserted itself, and here we are, sitting with one another these many years later. We really have not been separated since. We spent every weekend for about 6 weeks at a local YMCA. At a small YMCA.
Suburban, yeah.
We occasionally got out of bed and went out for a meal. But they were weekends of that extraordinary passion when two people who are in love are discovering one another in one another's bodies and the whole process of being in love. And then we just decided it wasn't possible to go on this weekend business. We really wanted to be under the same roof.
Just to put it in context, that was 1953. Eric was 23 and I was 25. So that gives you a closer time frame about how things were going in those days. Those were the days when, for the slightest provocation, the police would raid any place they wanted to get people in the paddy wagon and then take bribes from them to let them go. So that was the old days in Chicago. I don't know what it's like now.
In retrospect, I realize what we didn't do, what we didn't say to one another in public, that we do and that we do say now. In restaurants, I'll turn to him and say, "Oh, sweetheart, would you get the whatever?" All of those small but significant pieces of verbal intercourse between people who are in a relationship just did not happen. Not because we told ourselves they shouldn't happen, they just didn't happen. And it's only in this last year that I've come to realize, in the context of this larger discussion of same-sex marriage, what an enormous deprivation for people, that is, the deprivation of being able to remind themselves that they love one another, that they belong to the larger tribe, and that they belong. The ideal of having a long-term relationship didn't exist amongst many of our friends.
One of us couldn't just stay at home and the other one work. We both had to work. And since we were both working toward a common goal, which was to get out of Chicago as a couple, we decided just to go ahead and have one bank account. And so it took us 2 years to save up enough money to make the move, which paid for moving our household items and stuff, as well as our own transportation, and enough money to live on until we could each get a job out here.
It never occurred to me to do anything except to live a common life where everything is shared.
One of the things is it takes a real commitment to working with what you have in order to get along, not only together but in the world. And it falls back as a responsibility and being responsible for each other and for everything around. So that when it came to saving money, we were both very responsible about putting money into it and then making sure that we didn't spend anything on unnecessary stuff, and yet still spending things to enjoy life, because that's what it's all about. We were living in an apartment in Portland, nice, tight little apartment, wonderful kitchen and shower, big living room. That's about it. And we wanted to move out in the country. We'd seen so much of Oregon. Despite the fact we loved the city, we wanted to move out in the country that was close to the city. So we went round and round and round with different realtors and friends and everybody. And finally we found a place advertised in the paper, lived up on Cooper Mountain. We went up there and talked to him, and he showed us what he had. And the minute we saw it, it was exactly what we'd had in mind. It was on a hillside with a beautiful view and a simple barn-like structure that had little tiny windows that we decided to open up into full wall windows so we could see the view out over the valley. But anyway, we remodeled the house, and originally it was roughed in. It was just subfloor that you could look down through and see the weeds growing under
The
the
grass
house.
grew up through.
Yeah.
It was cold enough so that in the morning when we got up to go off to work or for me to go to art school, we'd open the refrigerator and warm air would come out of the refrigerator.
By comparison.
By contrast with, with what the rest of it was like. Then we'd do a half an hour of yoga.
Yeah. The house had been built with a door on each end of this barn and a hallway that ran right through the middle of it. And a couple of rooms that branched off of it. Well, the hallway was so narrow that how they'd ever get a piece of furniture through that, I don't know. They were not finished walls, they were just studs that they'd put in to hold up the roof. So we took out all that structure and tied the roof together, and the minute we took the stuff out from under it, the roof sank and made a swoop in it, which we kind of enjoyed. But
and the ducks that we have came and looked in the window and went quack quack at us. And
they'd follow us with their beaks.
The hardwood floor that we laid
had heating coils under it.
Yes, and it echoed the feet of the goats that we had 2 goats that we got as babies, and that had gotten used to lying in our laps in nursing, and then they got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So we have photographs someplace of the 2 of us with full-grown goats in our laps with their feet in the air while they were being affectionate.
Nursing in a bottle, yeah.
For many years we had one Vespa that we traveled on.
Went all the way to California and back.
Yes, we did. Eventually we had 2 Vespas, but on one Vespa we would go to the lumber yard and get
100 board feet of lumber.
Yes, and I would sit behind him and we would somehow balance it on our shoulders. So we did our carpentry.
No, you'd hold it this way in front of me.
Is that
I was staring, you'd sit on the back seat and hold the
Okay,
lumber.
okay.
Against my chest, I was...
All I know is that we managed to carry a lot of lumber on that Vespa.
Also bales of hay and bags of feed.
Yes, exactly.
For the goats and for the garden.
Be here late. He'd like to be.
Friday, yeah.
Did we ever
sit down and talk about it? But
about what?
About having an open relationship and close relationship. But
that was just taken for granted. I don't think we ever sat down and talked about it. It was just one of those things that we assumed went along with being in a relationship. Seems naive, doesn't it? In the 60s, late 60s, and the 70s, almost everyone we knew had a relationship that was more, it was more open. It had more permeable edges.
Soft edges, yeah.
Soft edges, and we went along with what was in the air and made it okay to have occasional sexual relationships with other people, particularly when he was out of town or I was out of town. And I don't think it was ever threatening at all. It was only later on when I suppose we'd had enough experience of that it simply dropped off as part of how we were.
Yeah, well, that along with the onslaught of AIDS coming into the community.
There was a naivete about the whole thing and an innocence about it that our generation experienced for a short time. And many of our generation have died because of it. Yes, he'd meet people, I'd meet people. He'd go to the steams, I'd go to the steams. And it was when we didn't sit down and make a noble decision. It simply arose, and we found ourselves realistically dealing with it.
And talking about it afterward, after the fact. We wouldn't make plans, but we'd talk about it after the fact. So, and that was okay.
If he went to Seattle and called and said, I had a great time with somebody that I met last night, I'd like you to meet him, or not say that, about liking to meet him, that was fine. I knew that, and I assume it was true for him as well, that if he called and said, I'm in the house next door to us, and I'll be home late for supper because I'm in bed with the man next door, Somehow that was different. I don't know why the difference between Seattle.
That never happened.
It never happened.
I wanted to take my lady friend to see a comedy. I was going to take her to see Garden State.
Fidelity and monogamy overlap, but they're distinct in their functions.
Well, if it hadn't been for the commitment that was ongoing, our relationship would have been destroyed by the 70s.
Could be.
Because
Could be.
Everything changed in the 70s.
Everything got very fluid.
Except that we maintained our commitment to each other. It was what we wanted above anything else. And I know that for me, and I think that's true for you too.
Yes, I just don't want it to sound like we sat down nobly at breakfast every morning and had noble thoughts about commitment. It doesn't work that way. That it's the underpinning.
Oh.
You okay?
Yeah. This stairs just wear me out.
I'll just think how more worn out we'd be if we hadn't been going up and down those stairs all these years.
So as soon as I catch my breath, I'm going to change the sheets on my bed.
Okay, I'll go get Bird. It's only in the context of this current discussion of marriage that I realize how much support we did not have. I'm convinced, though, that having those larger support systems, they tell people where they are and they offer them goals and ideals. I think those are extraordinarily important. Religious views can be extraordinarily naive and simple-minded when it comes to this.
Yeah.
But we definitely find, as humans, great power in the icon that the word marriage brings up for so many of us. Go ahead, go potty, and then you can get back on my shoulder. Go on. Go on. Thank you. You're so good at that. Every night, we always say, I love you, a couple of times. It's the last thing we say to one another, knowing perfectly well that the other one could be dead in the morning. Probably won't be, but could be, and will be one day. Have we done a lot of planning for this? We've thought about it. We've gone and done what needed to be done.
We've talked to an awful lot of people and asked for their input about what needs to be done. We talked to them at the hospital, and they said what you have to do is, for our health plan, they said what you have to do is fill out a such and such a paper.
The appropriate documents.
Yeah, and healthcare.
It's a pretty easy thing to take care of.
Yeah.
And
an awful lot of things are very simple to take care of. It's just a matter that with marriage, it all becomes automatic. And we had to take care of it ourselves.
We worry about going to Kentucky now. I'm not sure how the law works since they've instituted some of these changes. I'm not sure whether they will honor our durable power of medical attorney. I really don't know whether they will or not. That is a bit troublesome. The idea of social justice, the social and psychological and economic consequences of marriage did not enter my head or anyone's. I did not think about how important it is to have a mother-in-law and a father-in-law, or a mother and father that one can say to, what did you do when you got bored with your lover? What did you do when you got irritated? All of those things. To have nephews and nieces and uncles and aunts and friends who know about one's relationship. I didn't think of those things. None of my contemporaries thought of those things. One of the men that who was in our exercise class said to me the other day, you see, the will of the people expressed itself, and it is expressing itself throughout the country. And so it must be right. And I said to him, I can only speak for men, but what you need to know is what you're telling your sons and your grandsons is stay on your knees in the bushes. Make your sexual contacts in public washrooms, but don't bring your deep commitments to the table at Thanksgiving, don't ask your mother and father for advice. Don't sit at the deathbed of your mother and father and holding your lover's hand to support them. Stay in the bushes, stay on your knees. That's the message you're giving them. And stay 13 years old emotionally, because you're telling your sons and grandsons, when their hormones are at the highest and their fantasy is that the life should be and ought to be just about sex and nothing else, you're saying that's true for you. We can go on, we can grow, but you can't, you can't. Stay there. And then wonder why you can't find a partner. So, it's been a very good journey. I have no doubt, if you told me, well, you're going to die 3 minutes from now, my son, I'm not going to say, now I want to hear the old Catholic message, etc., etc., etc. Neither am I going to repudiate it with anger. I'm just going to say, sorry, sweetie, you're wrong. I have tasted what this is like, and the taste has convinced me that it is good.